According to the version repeated almost everywhere, the CIA spent years and millions of dollars building a spy cat. The project was called Acoustic Kitty. A real cat carried a microphone, a transmitter, a power source, and a concealed antenna. The cat was released near Soviet officials, started toward the conversation, stepped into the street, and was immediately killed by a taxi. It's an almost perfect Cold War disaster. Secret technology, enormous confidence, instant humiliation. There's just one problem. The surviving CIA memo doesn't say that happened. It confirms that the agency experimented with trained cats, tested equipment, considered using the technique in a real operation, and eventually abandoned the idea. It doesn't confirm Soviet targets. It doesn't confirm a first mission. It doesn't confirm the famous price tag. And it doesn't confirm the taxi. So how close did the CIA actually get to building a spy cat? And where did that extremely convenient taxi come from? Oddly enough, choosing a cat made a certain amount of sense. According to later accounts, someone noticed that cats could move through sensitive meetings without alarming anyone. A stranger might be noticed. A parked vehicle might be remembered. A visible recording device would obviously be a problem. A cat could stroll past a private conversation and look completely uninvolved in human affairs. Former CIA technical personnel described animals as naturally unalerting. Nobody looks at a cat wandering through a garden and assumes it has been sent by the United States government. The disguise was already perfect. The CIA only had to install a listening device and persuade the cat to walk toward the right people. Unfortunately, that meant turning the cat itself into part of the equipment. Later insider accounts say that the listening equipment was built into or directly onto the cat's body. The descriptions don't all agree, and nothing in the public record shows exactly how the equipment was arranged. Some accounts place a microphone near the ear. A transmitter and power source were said to be elsewhere, in or on the body. A thin antenna may have been concealed along the cat. This was much more invasive than attaching a recorder to a collar. The cat was being used as the housing, the camouflage, and the delivery system. The name Acoustic Kitty sounds like something you'd find next to a lava lamp. The actual project involved rearranging a living animal around the needs of a surveillance device. Even if the equipment worked, there was still a fairly obvious complication. A microphone can stay where it's placed. A cat has other commitments. The cat needed to approach a specific location, remain close enough to overhear a conversation, and avoid looking as though anyone was directing the movement. Now the CIA had two projects. One involved miniature electronics. The other involved making a cat behave like programmable equipment. Animal trainer Bob Bailey said years later that a cat was conditioned to pay attention to human voices and respond to ultrasonic directional cues. The CIA memo doesn't give us enough to verify every detail. Other CIA animal training records do show the same basic ambition. They describe auditory signals for staying on course and changing direction, with training moving from controlled enclosures into more complicated outdoor settings. Forward, left, right. At some point, the plan had become a game controller for a mammal. The obvious explanation is that the cat refused to cooperate. The CIA spent an absurd amount of effort discovering that cats don't take instructions. Except that isn't what the CIA's own evaluation says. In March of 1967, the agency wrote its final evaluation of the project. The version released to the public is heavily redacted. One phrase survives clearly. Cats can indeed be trained to move short distances. The memo also mentions encouraging results involving the training and the equipment. It suggests that getting a cat to approach a target was possible under limited conditions. That's nowhere near a successful field operation. It doesn't prove that a spy cat ever completed a mission. But the cat apparently didn't simply sit down, ignore everyone, and destroy the project through pure feline indifference. some of it worked. And honestly, that makes the whole thing worse. A complete failure would be easy to laugh at. Engineers build something ridiculous. The cat wanders away. Nature wins. Instead, the agency seems to have solved enough of the technical and behavioral problems to keep going. Then, they had to ask whether any of it would work in a setting that wasn't a test. The closing evaluation says that environmental and security conditions in a real foreign situation made the technique impractical. The exact reasons are hidden behind redactions. Maybe the issue was distraction. Maybe it was reliability, recovery, detection, or something else. The document doesn't tell us. The problem was that getting a cat to do something once, under controlled conditions, wasn't the same as trusting that cat with an intelligence operation. A test can be designed around the animal. Distance can be limited. Distractions can be reduced. The surroundings can be controlled. A laboratory can be arranged around a cat. A street cannot. The cat needed to look completely ordinary while behaving with extraordinary precision. Too much visible control would ruin the disguise. Too much natural behavior would ruin the mission. That contradiction was the entire machine. The CIA's final assessment somehow manages to praise the project and bury it at the same time. The memo says one result was a remarkable scientific achievement. The detail being praised is redacted. Then it singles out one person, whose name is also redacted, and says their energy and imagination could serve as models for scientific pioneers. So somewhere inside this document is an unnamed person being celebrated for an unnamed breakthrough in the field of turning a cat into surveillance equipment. Then, the memo concludes that the technique wouldn't be practical for the agency's purposes. This is bureaucratic taxidermy. The project is dead, but the paperwork has arranged it in a very flattering pose. And that's the documented ending. No clearly identified target, no dramatic first mission, no immediate catastrophe. Just encouraging results, unspecified operational problems, and a polite decision to stop. Then Victor Marchetti entered the story with a taxi. Marchetti was a former CIA officer who later became a critic of the agency. His account describes a first field test that ended almost immediately when the cat was struck by a taxi. That version has everything the memo lacks: a location, a mission, a victim, a sudden failure. Poetic justice delivered by municipal traffic. Reports since then have often placed Marchetti's taxi account alongside the declassified memo, making them appear to be parts of the same official record. They aren't. The memo doesn't mention the taxi at all. Robert Wallace, who later headed the CIA's Office of Technical Service, disputed Marchetti's version. Wallace said he had been told that the equipment was removed and the cat survived. His account is also secondhand. So we're left with two endings. In one, the cat dies during the supposed first field test. In the other, the equipment is removed and the cat lives. The public evidence doesn't settle which one is true. The taxi version has one enormous advantage. It's almost suspiciously perfect. The CIA tries to control a cat. The outside world ends the experiment in 1 second. That fits neatly inside a sentence. Environmental and security conditions made the technique impractical. Doesn't have quite the same snap. One sounds like fate delivering a punchline. The other sounds like a committee hoping nobody asks what environmental conditions means. And somewhere beneath the redactions, the arguments, and the increasingly polished retellings, the actual cat almost disappears. We don't know the cat's name. We don't know the cat's age, personality, exact role, or final fate. It's not even clear whether there was one central cat or several feline subjects involved. The humans are praised for their imagination. The equipment is evaluated. The technique is discussed. The supposed death becomes famous. The cat becomes a platform, a system, an anecdote. So back to that version everyone likes to tell. Remove the Soviet officials, because the target is uncertain. Remove the millions of dollars, because the famous figure isn't established by the released record. Remove the first mission, because the memo doesn't describe one. Then remove the taxi. What remains is stranger. A powerful institution looked at an ordinary animal and saw a machine waiting to be built. It built enough technology around that belief to gain some control, only to discover that limited control was nowhere near enough. The CIA couldn't completely turn a cat into equipment. History had no trouble turning the cat into a punchline. Still curious? Choose another strange thing before the sack opens. Like and subscribe.